Hi, and welcome to the portion of your week that has universal design for learning and digital environments, or as I like to call it, the educational superpower. Right now, I am using a screencast-o-matic, and I always get a little bit confused about which part of the screen catches everything and which part doesn't when I'm using a PowerPoint, so I apologize in advance. When I make mistakes, which I will. Another title I like to have for this particular talk is Dad's Online Gambling Habit Used Up Our Family Data Plan and Other Digital Excuses for Not Doing Homework. So I want to say that I'm excited. I do have an anxiety disorder that tends to make it, when I start talking, I am not as smooth as I am later on, so stay with me. Another reason I like to disclose that I have an anxiety disorder is because neurologically, this is where my anxiety disorder is happening in my head, in my neurons, not producing enough things I need at the moment. And you know that I get worried, I get kind of sweaty and nervous feeling, which is exactly the same physiological feeling as humans get when they're excited. So I try to keep telling myself that I'm excited as opposed to telling myself to calm down because that never works. So I am excited, and I'm excited to talk to you about universal design for learning, and I'm excited to frame it in the online world, and I'm excited that you guys are there in person together because it's a great week. I did this as a participant a few years ago and loved it, loved the team. This week I'm not. I got invited to do a speech, and so I am out this week, but thankfully for technology, I'm kind of here and there. A little bit about Universal Design for Learning. My name is Kimberly Coy. I work at Fresno State. I am in LEBSI, the LEBSI department. My particular focus is special education, and that's led me into Universal Design for Learning, which is for everyone, and online and digital environments. I am pretty obsessed with UDL. I'm so obsessed that my husband has now made a new rule for our family, is that I'm not allowed to drink wine and talk UDL at the same time. And I'm guessing it's because I talked about it at cocktail parties and with our friends, and he said he had to put the kibosh on it. But to self-disclose, I am very much obsessed with it. And I also enjoy teaching in the digital world. And I think my camera is over some of the slides, but that's all right. Because it is a whole new world for us teaching in a digital environment. And one of the ways I like to think about it is the new ways students have of combating and working out when they didn't turn in their homework. So I like to think that, someone could say that they didn't turn in their homework because their family member's gambling addiction used up all their data plan. So we have to combat that in a way as professors and educators and consumers of online in educational environments or educational learning events, as I like to call them. So there are a couple of ways that you can participate in this. One is to look at the computer, because you're in the room with everyone else and you can look directly at the computer and see me. You can go to the Padlet and poke around. That's the key to the Padlet, or the link for it is in the classroom, the liberal studies classroom. So I put it in for today. I also put my slide stack in, and I'll put this recording there somewhere too. So you can also have this recording and you can stop and start it as needed, or if you really feel like it, you can check Instagram for funny baby animal videos, which are also very important and help with anxiety. Might not have known that. So if you could just look around the room real quickly and rate your knowledge level of universal design for learning. So 1, maybe just starting out, and 5, I'm definitely looking at pictures of baby animals because I already know what you're going to talk about. So, and then you can look around and see kind of where everyone's at. It's kind of interesting to see how you rate yourself. And then also I want you to rate yourself on your knowledge of designing digital environments. So have you designed a digital environment? Do you have a website? Do you have a blog? Do you teach a lot of courses online? Or do you have is your knowledge of digital environments that you're a consumer of them, which all of us are a consumer to a certain extent. So 1, again, is really just starting out, and 5 is, I really need to go back to Instagram. So it's kind of fun to see where everyone's at there. So today, for the next half an hour or so, I want to talk about a brief journey of universal design for learning in the framework that I've experienced and discovered it. And then two, talk about what a digital educational environment can look like within the universal design for learning framework. So that's where we're going to start. This slide talks about Howard Gardner. And I can't, because I'm using Screencast-O-Matic, put my slides in presentation mode. So otherwise you would get some fly-ins here. But I've noticed that I can't, that's having some difficulty with that one right now. So who is Howard Gardner? And when you first saw this slide, if you thought he's the guy about multiple intelligences, you would be correct. So Howard Gardner is the person who conceptualized the idea of multiple intelligences. And you probably have heard about that. That means that he still writes and talks, and he conceptualized the idea that when we look at humans, he was fighting against the norm of saying there were people that were intelligent and the people that were not intelligent. And the way we have measured intelligence in education for a long time, before the late 90s, was through the Stanford-Binet intelligence tests. And we now know that those tests are faulty for a lot of different reasons. One, because they look really only at things where you could say a linguistic intelligence and a mathematical intelligence, so logical. They're also very biased toward people in the majority. So that would be white, middle-class males. Those would be the people that tend to do well on those intelligence tests, and they are not they're not normed for people that have an experience outside of that. It's very much in the white culture, the white male culture. So Howard Gardner fought against that by theorizing that perhaps we have different types of intelligences. And he started out with 8 of them. So they're linguistic, logical, naturalistic, picture smart, so images, body smart, kinesthetic, musical, interpersonal, so the way you relate to other people, and intrapersonal, and how your own self-knowledge. And when I was getting my education degree, which was in the late 90s, they were teaching this in schools as a way to look at education and look at humans and how they were intelligent. And I just thought this was amazing. I thought it made so much sense, and I just loved the idea of it. And I was going to create classrooms that had different centers for each type of intelligence. And I was going to test my students to see which one was the one that they were relying on most and how they learned best. And I was going to deliver education to each one of those groups of students in that way. It didn't happen because then I started actually teaching and realized that was very difficult. So as the discussion around multiple intelligences was happening, learning styles was also being discussed later on. So learning styles come from the idea of multiple intelligences, and it would be for me saying, I'm very much an auditory learner. I like learning when things are sung or told, or I can listen to them, and that's how I learn best. And that I've been born, my brain is auditory learner. Well, it turns out that learning styles and saying that you have one type of way that you learn that is the best is a neuromyth. It made sense, but since the idea was conceptualized, there have been literally nothing to prove that that was the case. So there's no evidence base for it at all. What there is an evidence base for is to say that we have learning preferences, but they happen in different moments and in different contexts. So for example, right now you're getting some context in this environment on universal design for learning and then in digital environments. I'm offering you different ways to get the same content. I have slides that you can look at. I have the Padlet that you can go to and self-select how you want to do things. There's articles and videos and other resources there, or you can listen to me talk. You can look at the slides themselves and the graphics or the words, or you can look at my face. So these are all different ways that you are learning, you are choosing in the moment, and you're going to be switching all the time depending on if you're hungry or if the person next to you is doing something more interesting, or if you're thinking about something else. Or if what I'm saying is really interesting to you, you may or may not like my voice. So we all have learning preferences, but they fluctuate and change all the time. So that's good to know. So when I was first starting teaching, that's when the idea of learning styles came out, and it was the same type of thing. I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm going to find out what every student's learning style is, and I'm going to teach to them. That didn't really work out. So I then came upon the concept of differentiated instruction, and especially in special education, differentiated instruction was really kind of oh, maybe this will work, because we don't want to leave anyone behind. Just because you learn a different way or you have something that you need to get over, or the learning environment isn't developed for you, doesn't mean you can't learn. So how do we make it so you can? And so differentiated instruction was a concept that came along, I'm going to say about 10 years ago. And that was where it was saying that teachers, we can differentiate how we deliver content and how we ask for what people know. But this graphic is kind of interesting. It shows so you can differentiate the content, what you're delivering, the process by what you deliver, the product you're asking the student to give back to you, according to the student's readiness and interests and their learning profile, to increase their growth and motivation, and underneath there is the efficiency of what you're doing. And it does work. If you tailor something to a student in that moment, they're going to learn. The only problem is it takes a long time to really understand where that student is, and by the time you kind of have it down for your whole classroom, the semester is gone or your year is half over. So not that it's a bad idea, but it wasn't the answer that I was hoping for. So what to do next? And the next iteration of helping students learn and teachers teach is universal design for learning. So this was conceptualized. I learned about this about 7 years ago when I started my PhD program. I walked into a classroom at Washington State University, and the professor was talking about universal design for learning. And the more he talked about it and the more I learned about it, the more I'm like, yes, this is it. So right now, this is it. This will change over time, and hopefully we continue to make new discoveries. But universal design for learning is what is the most effective way for human brains to engage in what we call learning now. So I want to talk about what it is. And the way I'm going to do that is to talk about where it kind of came from. So where it came from was architecture. And Ron Mace is the guy's name. About 25 years ago, started out with the idea that every physical space should be developed for every type of human that could use it. So that we're not taking a building that was built for only people who were completely mobile and then retrofitting it for everyone else to come in. Instead, we're building from the beginning for everyone to use this space. And this staircase is a really nice example of that. So the goal of this staircase is to move from one level to another and to do it in the most efficient way possible. So one of the ways that you can use this staircase is to walk up the stairs. The other way you can use it is to roll up the ramp if you're wheelchair mobile, or perhaps you could walk up the ramp if you were using a cane or something on wheels. You can walk up part of it and roll up part of it. You can use the handrail. You have a lot of choices in how to get to your goal, which is to get from one level to the other, one place to the next. But the options for getting there are built into the staircase from the beginning. It wasn't retrofitted later on. It was built this way from the beginning so that everyone can use it. So there's other examples of universal design for learning out there in the world that you could probably think of. So curb cuts, that's a really nice one. So curb cuts, of course, were originally designed for people who are wheelchair mobile. Well, what's great about curb cuts is that everyone benefits. Everyone who's had a stroller or roller skates or a skateboard or has been dragging a suitcase or has been injured and can't lift their legs up. Curb cuts are for everyone, although they were designed specifically for someone in the margins. And they were designed at the beginning now for everyone to use. There's different types of door handles. This bathroom is really great. It's beautiful, first off, and it is an example of universal design in that lots of different types of people can use it. You can roll a wheelchair right up there. It's easy to get in and out of the shower. They don't show the toilet, but it's got plenty of space and bars around it. And there's a little seat in the shower so you can sit on, and it's also gorgeous and designed from the beginning for everyone to use. And then closed captioning. I like to